Okay, just coming up to the first lane. To be honest, the state of the roads at the minute, even the roads are like lanes. But this is a good little trail. Actually caught me out on the CRF the other week when I came up it, just because there's some wet rock, some exposed wet rock, and it was just difficult getting traction on the CRF even with the knobbly tyres. So I'll be interested to see what this Himalayan's like with the very worn or well worn MT60s. What I've always liked about the Himalayan is just the tractable nature of the throttle. It's very easy to find traction and moderate the power, and almost you've got a real good connection with the back wheel, which I think is really important with a trail bike or a bike that you're riding on trails. If you can't feel what the back end's doing, then you're in trouble. Also, I think the weight of the bike also helps it get traction, find grip, and also gives it some stability. Obviously weight's not always a good thing, and generally it's not, but I think sometimes in the Himalayan's case it's what helps it feel so planted and stable. And it's just this chuggy nature of the engine mated to decent chassis, to a decent chassis and suspension, which just means, like, even now I've got the back wheel is just spinning up. I've had to dab, but it's just going up, you know, it's just finding traction. A little bit of slip there, slip, 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 slip. So up. Yeah, exactly the same happened on the CRF 250. Just got this wet exposed rock, and once it goes, it goes. Yeah. Let's get off. That was a bad start. That was a bad start indeed. So just getting it straight up. Yeah, it's just exposed rock. And I think it's because it's so sustained, you're never getting momentum, and you're relying on sort of drive, and you don't get much traction. So really the mud, it's better to get onto the mud than the rock, which doesn't always make sense. You'd think there'd be more grip on the rock, but that's not the case. So there we go, first gear. Bit of paddling to get moving, and then we're off again. There's no rule that says you have to stand up off-road. If you feel more comfortable to sit down, then sit down. The beauty of standing is that A, you got better control of the bike, B, you're taking a lot of load out of the suspension because you're doing a lot of it with your legs and your arms, and C, I don't know what C is. Yeah, these tyres are finding the limit. I'm just sort of, come on, weight back. Just trying to get that weight back to get some traction. Here we go. That was harder than I thought it was going to be. Where shall we go? Got another good lane. Okay, this is a more moderate lane. Still exposed rocks, but a little bit more flowing, so I think we can keep second and just find that grip, that traction. Just gentle on the throttle. I've got my weight back again. Knees slightly bent, head up, trying to pick a clean line. Second gear still, just chugging. And again, that's what I love about the Enfield's engine. Really nice, chuggy, difficult to store, very user friendly, and I think that's what makes it a good novice off-road bike or trail bike or travel bike for that matter. It's just got the lovely lazy long stroke engine, and it also sounds good. You know, I love the character of it. You compare it to the sound of the 310 GS, for example, which really sounds tinny and I guess cheap. I've got to be honest, it's not a great sounding engine when it pulls up alongside you. But this Himalayan, it's just got an old school charm to it, the sound, and I think that counts for a little bit. So just trying to keep loose on the bike. Try not to fight the bike. It's always a danger when you're trying to fight the bike. A lot's been said about ABS on the Himalayan, and now you don't have a switch to disable ABS. I don't think that's as big a deal as some people are making it out to be. I think if you're relying on ABS on dirt, on a bike like the Himalayan, I think you've got it all wrong. You shouldn't really be, I mean, there, you know, it engages a little bit as I'm coming down there and I'm just on the back brake, but it's not hindering me, it's not causing me any problems. And I think really it's only when you're pushing on, and it has caught me out a few times when I've been pushing on maybe a little closed circuit and I've been gathering momentum, and then maybe I've gone for the front brake and I've gone a bit heavy on the front brake and it started pulsing, and once it starts pulsing it's very difficult to actually get it to engage. It just you almost sort of run on, overshoot the corner with the front brake, just sort of biting and letting go and biting and letting go, and that's when ABS can be a bit dangerous. But for general trail riding, you know, I'm not convinced it's hindering too many people. So it's not a deal breaker, and if it is, you know, just pull the fuse out. Just going to go and find this next lane, and this is where we joined the route that I took the KTM 390 down, and I was really surprised by that bike, just how capable it was. Obviously it's got limitations of ground clearance and suspension travel, both of which are pretty much the same as the Himalayan, but it just had more finesse and guts than I expected it to. More capability and better suspension quality, and I think, if I'm honest, that's what sets apart the Himalayan and the 390 KTM. The 390's got really sophisticated, good suspension, just excellent really for that price range of bike. And the Himalayan, as basic as it is, non-adjustable, whoever set it up, it's just got it so well sorted, it just allows you to make progress. Now this is going to be all interesting, a bit sideways, got a step there, and back, but just there. I mean, I'm on dirt with very slicky tyres, I'm going up a wet face, I've got exposed steps, and I've got traction. I've got traction. I don't have a lot of ground clearance to get up them rock steps, and the back end is out like a bastard, but I've got traction on a wet tyre, on a slick tyre. And that engine is just chug, up we go. Now imagine if that had a knobbly on back, and the knobbly was just helping it chug, you would get up there absolutely no problems at all. The key really to trail riding, in my opinion, and I'm no pro or expert or tutor, is throttle and clutch control. If you've got good throttle and clutch control, you'll be able to push a bike to its limits safely and easily. It's all about, especially with these bigger bikes, these heavier bikes, talking too much and not concentrated, is being able to go slow in control. So you can approach, say this section here is too tricky, you can approach it in first, come to a standstill, you're not going to stall it. I'm still stood up, I'm waiting, I pick my line, I dropped a foot, but I can pick a line very carefully, very precisely. I'm not stalling it, I'm just keeping the engine going on the clutch, barely any throttle, which is good about the Himalayan. You don't need a lot of throttle input, which makes the 310GS a bit awkward because it's got no chug on the clutch. So if you're just trying to feather that clutch, it'll stall, and that makes it very difficult as a novice rider or an intermediate to ride it on tight trails. The Himalayan's quite easy for that. And so if I was to advise anyone of anything, it would be master slow speed control. Because if you can master slow speed control on a bike, you'll find trails so much easier. If you're approaching an obstacle or a tricky section, and all you can do is keep it in gear and keep the power on and sort of bluster into it without no control or ability to retain your speed, then you're going to have problems because you're hitting it faster than what you're capable of riding it, and that's when it goes wrong. So if you can come to an obstacle, measure it up, slow yourself down, pick a pace that suits you and your ability, then you stand a far better chance than just hitting it and thinking, oh shit, power, bang, and then you're down. So slow speed control, whether it's slow speed races with people who can do the distance 100 metres slowest, that's always a good one for clutch control, or figures of 8, that's always a good one for clutch control. If you can do tight figures of 8 on a bike in first gear on a clutch, it helps you in so many different disciplines, whether it be turning a bike around in a car park or doing a trail. So that's it, we're going to come to the end of this trail and we're going to crack on and do a few more. Alright, over and out about the bike. How's the people doing in life in general at the minute? I mean, I know wherever you are in the world there'll be some restrictions and things. I'm not sure it's getting any easier. I know from personal experience it seems to be getting tougher and tougher to keep positive about it all. So I hope you're all managing to keep some sense of positivity, and hopefully we'll come out the other side better for it. But it's good to get out on a bike. I've not been out on a bike for a week or two, and quite a nice feeling, really, and nice to focus the mind on something that's controllable. You know, I think that's what I like about the bike riding, and certainly when you're travelling long distance, you focus, your mind is all on getting to where you're wanting to go to, and everything else becomes sort of peripheral and irrelevant. So today, issues of vaccines and lockdowns and restrictions and tiers kind of goes out the window, because I'm just trying to get to the end of the trail, and that I find is quite therapeutic. So wherever you are in the world, wherever your situation, I hope you're doing all right, and we'll see each other on the other side. But for now, we've got another little trail here. I did this one on the 390. I was surprised how well the 390 cope with the high frequency bumps that you find on this lane. This is from this point on when the KTM really started to impress me. I think it had got more grip than the Himalayan. It certainly didn't intimidate to the point. The Himalayan down here with these tyres on, you know, you can think, I'm not going to push it because I'm going to end up on my arse in a minute when I just find a bit of a wet, sludgy lateral slope, and I'll be down. The KTM didn't give me that impression. It just seemed to carry itself really well, give you a lot of confidence as a rider, and that's, I think, really what surprised me about that bike. But again, you rein in your speed, you take it at your own pace, you chug along, and again the Himalayan, no worries at all really, nothing phases it down here, neither the high frequency bumps or anything. The only problem you might find on a lane like this is the depth of ruts, or the narrowness of a rut, because the pegs sit really low on the Himalayan, which is good. It gives you a lot of space. I find it a comfortable standing position, or a relaxed standing position. What it means by having the low pegs is that they do catch on the ruts, and when that starts happening, you really are just down and pedalling, and really sometimes you can get stuck in a rut, as I have done sometimes on a Himalayan, just because, you know, the pegs have buried themselves into the banks of the ruts, and that's it. You have to lift the bike out. Yep, you can certainly tell here the sophistication of the KTM suspension on that little last stretch there. The Himalayan's a lot more bobbly. Make sure I'm in neutral. I had a flat battery when I came to come out, so I had to jump start it. I don't want to kill the engine. So yeah, got a few more lanes to go, but really the Himalayan, just, I think, for the money, and again for the fact that it'll do, so we're doing trail riding now, you know, it's not going to set any records, but it'll do that kind of trail, which is, I think, enough for most people, and it's really comfortable, composed, and solid on the road. And I think that's why it's selling so well. That's why a lot of people are raving about it, because for $4,000 you're effectively getting a 1200 GS. Now I know I think that's a little bit of an over exaggeration, but the beauty of the GS 1200 and why it's done so well is because it can do everything. If you're capable on it, you can ride it off-road, you can tour up on it, you can ride fast on it. It's sort of a bike to do everything. And the Himalayan, in a way, is very much that same bike. It's a bike that will do everything. Maybe not the best at everything, not the fastest, not the most powerful, not the best tour-up, not the best off-roader, not the fastest handling bike, but its spread of its talent is so broad, which means it makes it just a very good universal bike. And I think why I still favour it over the other bikes is because there's none of those other bikes with that broader spread of ability straight out the crate. Yes, the CRF 250 can be improved with an extra seat and a new rear shock and a bigger fuel tank, but then, you know, you spent a lot of money on that. The GS 310 is a great machine with the rally raid kit on, but you've got to spend two to three grand on that kit, and that makes it an expensive bike. The KTM 390, you know, I think that's a good bike. Whether I trust it over a long distance like the Himalayan, whether it's just as lopey and relaxing and leisurely as the Himalayan, I don't think it is. It's more frantic for shorter duration adventures, certainly, but for the long haul trips where you need a bike to do everything, I always come back to the bloody Himalayan. I mean, I've got that Moto Guzzi V8 5TT, which is effectively a Himalayan with a bit more power. And you think, you've spent all that money, 10 grand, on a Guzzi which is faster than the Himalayan. But is it better than the Himalayan? And I know people will go, oh, you muppet, you must be off your rocker, but is it better than the Himalayan? It's not as good off-road. Is it? I'm not sure it's as comfortable. And so is it better at what? Better for tow-up, yes. Better for getting somewhere in a rush. But everything else, I'm not sure. So yeah. This is a nice lane. This is what suits the Himalayan. This is its element. This is what I guess you'd find maybe in India on a typical sort of back road, maybe somewhere, or wherever it was developed for. But we've got a good base. We've got a mixed surface, choppy, changey. And I'm up, and I've got a really nice, relaxed riding position. It makes me comfortable. Doesn't tire me like the KTM up here. It fatigues you because you're in a racing stance, which is fine for a mile, but after 2 miles you're knackered. Whereas this, oh, we've got some levelling going on here. Oh dear. Oh, am I going to be in trouble? Oh, they've been doing some work here. Oh dear. Oh dear. New surface. I think there's going to be a workman up here who's going to tell me off. Oh well. I didn't know it was any difference, officer. Oh yeah, this has changed. Oh, this is a really good trail. Oh dear. Oh, never mind. First world problems. This is a trail I'd take people on the 4-bike test, because it's just a nice gradual gradient, manageable. There we go, back to normal. But yeah, the Himalayan is just in its element, and as I say, that extra weight just keeps it so stable and planted. It doesn't work against it in the way that it does on the technical trails. Definitely more challenging now than it used to be. See, these are the kind of lanes to me which are they're going to catch you out. You get overconfident. It's pretty smooth, got good visibility, nothing overly challenging ahead of you. But then you've got these really wet patches of mud, which is when you hit that with the front tyre and it starts to go sideways and you're carrying speed. That's when you end up on your arse at speed, and that's when you end up with a broken leg, broken arm, broken bike. And I think the faster trails are the most dangerous ones for me, at least. That's what I think. The slower trails, you know, realistically, you're not going to hurt yourself too bad. But these faster trails where you think, oh, I'm alright here, I'll get a bit faster, and we're all guilty of it. But these faster trails where you just open it up, third gear, you know, you might sneak into third, then into fourth, you're doing 30, 40 mile an hour, and then all of a sudden, wet slush, puddle, walker, cyclist, horse, whatever, corner, and then you're in trouble, and then you're pedaling, back pedaling, try and regain control of the bike, and by that point it's too late. So I always say to people, as soon as you feel confident and you think you can do it, slow down, because you're always on the cusp of overconfidence. And it's better to just back off, slow down, than it is to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because then you'll have the accident. I've found with trips, you know, people have reached their limit, you can see they're riding on their limit, you can ask them to slow down, you can demand that they slow down, but if they carry on riding at that limit, they'll push a bit too far and then it'll end in disaster. And that's, you know, that's just the reality of it. That's human nature, I think. But there we go. Gonna hit the road, do a bit of road riding, take you to the next trail. All right. Okay, so we're just at the next lane. This is where it gets a little bit more nadgery, a bit tricky, a bit wetter. bit more technical. Just an issue, just a topic of safety. So I'm out riding the trails on my own, which is kind of, in some say reckless, but if you're going around the world on your own, you're on your own. So, you know, I'm not sure you shouldn't be doing it at all. But in this case, like, I've just, oh, that is wet. That is very wet. I think that's cloggier than it was the other day when I came down. So just leaning off the bike, just letting the bike move around. Yeah, this is a good wet trail. So just on the issue of safety, I've just done a live location share with my wife. Just on Facebook, you can do a 1 hour live share. So at least she knows where I am. And if I do fall off, break my leg or whatever, then I've given a rough indication of time as to when I'll be back, and she's got a rough idea where I am. So, you know, I guess it's a cheap GPS locator. Come on, concentrate. Leaning off the bike, leaning off. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely feel the extra 50 kilos of the Himalayan over the KTM. Because once it starts getting slightly out of line, it just takes more effort to bring it back in, which I think is what you would always assume with more weight. With more weight, it is more inertia, more momentum, and more effort to rein in or control that momentum, really. So it stands to reason that the Himalayan is going to be a little bit more hard work and less adjustable than the 50 kilo lighter bike, but it just soldiers on, it tractors on. Second gear. I've got my fingers covering the clutch just in case, but it's drying out as we climb up a little bit. It's not steep, this. Got little midges in my eyes. I do like riding with my visor up, which I appreciate isn't the best, especially at speed, when I would bring it down, but at slow speed I just like to have a nice natural look at what I'm tackling. So a visor or goggles I just find awkward, but obviously you can have your own preference. So as soon as I'm detecting that rear wheel slipping, I'm just backing off the throttle a touch, just trying to let it get up. Dab 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 dab. First gear, come on, that was terrible. I'm talking too much. So slow into this. Yeah, I mean, it's just the bike is twisting, front wheel's drifting one way, back's going another way. Sloppy gook here. Woo-hoo-hoo. Edgy. Cross-rutted. Yeah, more effort than on the KTM. Yeah. And then here we've got this climb. We'll see how we get on, really. It's a bit of a steeper climb with a step in the middle. You got to get clean up, bit of momentum. Second gear. We'll see what happens. Okay. Actually, first gear. Let's go first gear. Head up. Try and pick the route early. Nope, I can't see it. Okay. Come on. Oh, I'm on the rocks. Still going first gear. No clutch slip. Brilliant. Could do that all day. Come on, donkey. And there we go. It's not pretty. It's not clean. But it's a 200 kilo bike with road tyres, going up quite a nadgery climb there. And mainly, this is my direct dissection point, mainly for two reasons. Engine is lovely and tractable. You know, I didn't have to worry about the engine stalling or changing gear. I just kept it in first. It's quite tall geared, so carried me up first all the way from, you know, 1,500 revs up to 4,000 revs. You got a lot of variance of speed in that first gear, and that means you can focus on getting up it rather than being in what gear. So a lovely engine for that sort of stuff, like a tractor. Secondly, suspension. It's budget suspension, but it's beautifully damped, which means you're always well connected to the terrain. It responds crisply, cleanly, keeps you in control. There's not a lot of travel, and there's ways to improve the suspension. But for a budget bike, you know, there's not a lot more you could ask, really. And that's why I was always blown away by the bloody Himalayan, because here comes Royal Enfield, 100 years of building a Bullet, which is, you know, not a bad bike but not class leading. Here they come with this new Himalayan, up against Honda, up against BMW, up against Suzuki with the V-Strom 250, up against Kawasaki with the Versys 300, up against KTM now with the 390. Out come Royal Enfield, out of nowhere, with a bike built for the Indian market that everyone thought was going to be crap, that everyone saw the foot peg fall off on the promotion video when it first was launched, and everyone laughed at it and thought, who in the right mind would buy one? Then they come out at £4,000 and people went, oh, I'm tempted, as was I bought one of the early ones into the country, and it's just a brilliant bike. It's not without fault. It's a bit slow, the brakes are a bit weak, the issues of the head bearings getting notchy, and some of the valve guides going on the head, and a few other mechanical issues which you think, God, please get on top of, and then you'd have a faultless bike. But it's just such a great design bike, well thought, whether it's by design or whether it's by accident that the bike works so well in a Western market. I don't know, I think it's completely by accident. But the way it rides, the way that you can ride it aggressively on the road and carry a really good amount of momentum, and then the way you can transition onto trails like that, which really it's got no business going up, because I won't bring the 310 GS up there on standard tyres or with standard suspension, because it'd kill it, and I won't get up it. I'd be stalling it 1,000 times and it'd be hard work. But for Royal Enfield to come out with this bike that works is, I don't know, it's an underdog story, I think. Let's say that it's an underdog story, and I do like a good underdog story, because it was really set up for, say, the 310 GS to have been brilliant. The BMW have got such capability to build brilliant bikes. I love the 1200 that I had. I just thought it was such a complete motorcycle, capable of everything and well built, well engineered, and I had no problems with reliability. People say, oh, they're not reliable. Well, you know what, mine was an ex-off-road skills bike, so we'd had a year at the off-road school, and I bought it, it looked a bit battered, but mechanically it never let me down, and it was sound. So, whoops, daisy. Let's lean. That's done me, hasn't it? Up, daisy. Oh dear, up. Chivalry and all that just caught me. So yeah, the BMW were perfectly poised to build a brilliant mini adventure bike. You had everything. You had the name, the technology, the expertise. And there's nothing really wrong with the 310 GS other than it's got a BMW badge on it, and therefore your expectations are up there and the bike is there, and you just can't help but be disappointed by it, not necessarily by the mechanics of the bike, the actual physical machine, but based against the expectations of what could it have been. It had put a bit more effort in, and I guess the KTM I was feeling quite similar, to be honest. Especially before I took it on that off-road ride, and then riding it off-road I thought, actually, God, it's a brilliant bike, they had made an effort, so it sort of vindicated itself. Right, this is a trail, this is a climb, which it took me 5 attempts on the KTM. Let's see how we do on the Himalayan. Straight into it. Oh, chuggle, chuggy, chug, first gear. Come on. Whoa. Come on. Ah, first time. Like a bucking bronco. Tractable. Come on. Keep going. Fight it. What? My feet are catching. Oh, you're gonna love it. Oh, tiredness kicks in. Oh, come on. It's like wrestling a buffalo, but a docile buffalo. I mean, that back wheel is spinning. For every revolution, it's probably doing half a revolution forward propulsion. But it's going. It is going. Soldiering. Let me make sure I'm recording. Oh. hell of a track that is. So like engaging and immediate. You're straight into it, straight into a tight right corner. Climb, climb, climb. It never lets up. I'm going to have a job getting going here again. Come on. First gear, first gear. Come on, there we go. First gear, come on, can we get second? Second gear, yes, come on. That back end is still going, it's still all over the place on these wet leaves. Got my head up, trying to pick a line I'm going to need first, I think. No. Second still, first here, because we've got some roots, some rocks. There we go, come on. Head up, it's always trying to pick the cleanest line. Obviously your reaction is to look at your front wheel, and as soon as you do that you're buggered. Come on, straight up this one. Second gear, power, 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 power. Down to first because we've got some roots, rocks. Oh, slipping, slipping. Come on, come on, tight, tight. Leaning back, I've got my weight all the way back on the back wheel. Just wait, feeling it step. Throttle, it's all on the throttle. I'm controlling both the sideways movement of the back wheel and the forward movement of the front wheel, all on the throttle, all on the throttle. Working with the bars, not against them, keeping the body fluid. Ah, what a workout that is. Such a brilliant trail that. Oh, it's such a brilliant trail. Oh, fucking hell. You might remember this spot, anybody who watched that last video on the KTM. You've got chalk and cheese here, the Himalayan and the KTM. The KTM's got finesse up a trail like that. You know, it's got better suspension, it's lighter. I don't know, it's just, is it easy on the KTM? That's the thing, I'm not sure it's any easier on the KTM. It probably is a little bit. It is easier on the KTM, I think, actually. But Knobbly's on this, you lose a lot of that rear wheel slip that you're getting with these on. I mean, look at these tyres. Them tyres. But the Himalayan that goes up a trail like that, which is really a trail for 21-inch front, 18-inch rear trail bikes, the fact that the Himalayan goes up that, well, you can knock it as much as you want, but I've spent, that bike costs just over 3,000, and I could go around world on it tomorrow, or I could go trail riding on it tomorrow, and that's why I love the Himalayan. And listen to it, it sounds like a motorbike. Brilliant. And I am knackered. I've got arm pump, neck pump, leg pump, but actually what I feel after the KTM, you know, you're really engaged with it, you're over the front, so your neck is, you're extending your neck to compensate the length forward position. You don't get that with the Himalayan, so I don't think you'd fatigue through the day as quickly on the Himalayan as you would the KTM. Just because it's got, for me anyway, a more natural upright riding position. This bike, you might have noticed, maybe not, I don't know where the camera's pointing, this has got risers bolted on top of the clamp, which is not a stupid error, it's just the fact that the bike came with risers on. Well, the problem with risers, it removes weight over the front, and weight gives you traction and weight gives you control. And so risers really can ruin the bike's capabilities, and people chuck them on as though it's going to enhance it, but in a lot of times it ruins it. The KTM will probably benefit from it, but the Himalayan certainly didn't. And I didn't have the original bolts, and the bolts that you get with the risers are longer than the original bolts. So to get around it for the time being, I just bolted the risers on top. So that is a short-term fix. So I'm not a complete idiot and putting risers on the top of the clamps. Alright, we're going to go find one last lane. It's the long one with the long rocky descent. Hopefully come back in one piece. Hopefully my wife can see that I'm still moving, and hopefully go back in one piece. Over and out.